Hello and welcome to the Unstuck Podcast. I'm Cameron,
I'm Heather.
and today we have a fun topic that Heather and I like listening to a lot of different podcasts. And I have some that I listen to, she has some that she listens to. And one that Heather more listens to, but I listen to some, is one by author Mel Robbins, who you may know from the 5 Second Rule book and also High Five Habit. Yeah. She's got a lot of great content. One thing I like about her, and this is something you'll notice in a lot of different stuff we talk about and stuff you'll listen in other podcasts that are mindset oriented. The modalities can be different, but a lot of what they're talking about is the same, and it's how to achieve those mindsets that are most beneficial to you and bring you the type of success you want. And she had a really good episode of her podcast where she talks about three different things, and she titles it "Three Different Ways to Brainwash Yourself," and she meant by that three different kind of like,
It's like to trick your brain
yeah,
into working for you instead of against you.
yeah,
Because like a lot of times we unconsciously like work against ourselves because we're not understanding how our brains work and using our free will and choice to maximize what our brains are capable of.
yes. And the first one she talks about is about synchronicity and how that operates in your life. Heather, can you just describe that to us and like what kind of what Mel was going over with that?
So synchronicity is where you find like the evidence that things are going your way, or like something you might like write off as coincidence, but is something that could be looked at as like life smiling on you, or a blessing from God, or something like that. And like we can be really skeptical in life, but but we all have those moments where it's like, no, like heaven's shining down on me right now. And you can choose either to see it that way or to not see it that way. I'm trying to think like of an
I
example. Do you have an example, Karen, where I
uh
gave you one earlier. I'm trying to remember what it was because it was a good one.
I think an example could be um so for instance a small example, and I think this is the point of it. Doesn't matter how trivial it is. A small example is Heather and I have noticed we have a thing where we love garage sailing. Every summer we like every Saturday we get excited. We find which ones have been
It's become
posted. And yeah, it's almost like a sport. We love it. But the interesting thing is we have this. There's this strange thing that happens where we seem to find the things that we've been thinking of trying to find all the time, and it's not always a very like common thing either. I think one time I was looking for this little shelving that would go over a door because I wanted to use it inside of a pantry, and that's what we use right now in our pantry in the laundry room.
mm,
I remember when I found that I was like, oh yeah, I was just thinking about that, and that's the kind of synchronicity I think we're talking about. Is like how once you have that happen in your life, there's two ways you can look at it. You can look at it as just, oh, that's just kind
a
of funny that can happen,
coincidence. Yeah.
coincidence, or you can see it, and I like calling it providence. I'm a Christian, so I see it as God driven, and so
It's a blessing.
I see it as a blessing or as something that providentially, something that had the hand of God in it when it happens, and so that's what synchronicity
But
we're
it
talking
also
about.
can be like just meaning, right? So say you have something that's personally meaningful to you, like a symbol. Some people, I've had a lot of friends where like someone will close to them will pass away, and there's like something that they'll see, like a dragonfly or something like that. And like when they see a dragonfly, it reminds them, and it's like that the person is still with them and close to them. And so some people might say that's just a coincidence. And you can look at it like that. But what the synchronicity, like the power of it is saying, like daring to go, well, maybe it's not just a coincidence. Maybe this actually is a little message from, I mean, personally, like I believe those things are from God, just as a reminder that you're loved, the person, that you're missing is still there, and they're with you.
So Heather, what's the point of that? I mean, because I can see, especially if you're cynically minded or you're just struggling in life, so it's just hard to see the good synchronicity in your life. What is the point of that? Why see? Because
Why
like,
would you do that?
yeah, why
Like,
would you do that?
why risk being wrong? What if it is just a
Yeah,
coincidence?
what if it's just a coincidence? What if you're just deluding yourself?
So I think, as with all things, how we show up to our lives and the energy and the belief that we put into things, That's what our results are based off of. And so if we take life's opportunities to see it through the lens of hope and faith and joy and like and meaning, right? Like I think that the crux of this whole synchronicity thing is that there's meaning. Like you are taking things that happen in your life and providing meaning for them. So like I had this happen um for us, or for me, I was actually thinking about this as I've been pondering the podcast. We went I had a work trip last year in Sedona, Arizona. Um, and this was like well into our healing journey. And like there is Sedona is just kind of a healing place anyway. Lots of really cool like I mean they've got vortexes there, whether I don't know like what's going on there,
I'm
but
not
like
so
a
sure how
lot
would
of
I feel about those,
I
but
don't know, but a lot of people travel to go them. They feel the buzz and energy. And I mean, I remember there's several cool things that happened there. And was it like, I don't know how I feel or if I believe it, but like I had some really crazy cool experiences meditating at one of those vortexes where I felt a sense of letting go and healing that I had been hoping for and looking for and trying to achieve. So I could say like, oh, maybe it was a coincidence. Like, is the vortex really real? And I'm not even giving like power to the vortex, honestly. I think it's because I opened my heart up to it. I think that came from God personally, but I could question it. I could go and say like, no, maybe I was just imagining it. That's just what I wanted to feel. Or I could accept it as what I've been hoping for, working towards, really wanting to have. And then allowing that to be part of my healing journey and part of like what's restoring my soul and my spirit and making me happy. And so I think that's really the core of it is that it's all of life's like experiences and circumstances that happen to us. There's lenses where you can look through it. I think I'm remembering the one that we were talking about. So earlier, my example.
okay.
So that was a really good one. We live in Utah. We moved to Utah 10 years ago this year. And there's some like crazy experiences that led up to our moving. So it all started with the birth of our fourth child. 10 days later, Cameron lost his job. And then that started a 5-month period of like leads for work that would just fall flat. And like it's like he'd get a phone call, and like we lived way out in the country, and in the summertime when like the leaves are out, like this reception was terrible, and so calls would drop, and he'd race into town and call back, but then no one would call him back. It was like dead end after dead end after dead end until finally he we had the inspiration through meeting with our bishop at church, encouraging us to look outside of the area. And I had an email list and suggested a few jobs that Cameron was qualified for. And all of a sudden it was like, bam, bam, bam. He got the job, like we negotiated and got the money that we needed to make it work. We'd had a really like crazy tax year where our return was like super high. And so during the months that he was laid off, like we had savings that was working for us, and then we move across country, and like literally the day like our savings literally was like almost like to the penny that we had enough. On the way here, like in Wyoming, we didn't realize how scary there were long stretches of time or long stretches of the drive that had no gas stations like at all. And so we almost ran out of gas. Like it was just kind of like crazy stories where we saw the hand of God. Like literally we had two cars. We were like carpooling. Both cars were like on E, and we go around the corner and there's like this one lone gas station, and
It wasn't even finished.
I think it was finished, but it was under construction. I mean, literally,
yeah.
we were so close to running out of gas. Both cars. I had a 5-month-old baby who was just done with the travel. Then our savings is like it's just to the penny. And so the way that we looked at that whole experience, was like this is the hand of God. Like he helped us with the gas, like to the point where we made it to the gas station. We didn't run out of gas. We had enough savings to get us from Virginia, where we came from, to Utah, where his paycheck came in. The job, like it just when we found the right place, like he didn't get a job there because we knew, like we found out later we were supposed to be here for so many reasons. And so we looked at it through those lenses of miracles. And I think that's what synchronicity is, because I was realizing as I was thinking about this podcast, like we could have looked at it the other way. Like, how awful was that? Like, first you lose your job, we just have a baby, like it was unfair, and then it takes forever to find a job, and then you finally get one, and then we almost run out of gas on the way, and we had all these the savings, and now it's gone. You know, we could have looked at it from that lens and found the negative in it, but we, because of our faith in God, because we were praying along the way, like that kind of encouraged us to automatically look for the miracles. And I think that's what we're talking about.
Well,
Like, how much better do you feel, and how much more enjoyable is life when you see it through the lens of like blessings and miracles that are performed to help you throughout your life, not to tear you down or to keep you down in any way.
yeah. So to directly answer the question, why does this kind of living work? Why does synchronicity and looking for those positive things and attributing them to something that is good and providential and has a higher level of intention in your life, is because it increases your well-being. It just simply does. And that is one thing I want to point out. It's one of those type of things that you can do that you can just test.
Yeah.
If you already feel very
What's
cynical,
the harm in
yeah,
trying?
like the worst thing that's going to happen is you'll try this out, you won't find your well-being increasing. But
And then you stop.
then you can stop. You can change if you want. But there's one thing that I noticed one time. I don't remember when it was in my life. I think it was before I was married to Heather. I remember it was a time in my life where I was kind of cynical. And I remember there was somebody who was very positive and being annoyed with them. And I remember feeling like they're just fake. They're just faking it. And then I remember, after kind of thinking about it a little longer, I remember saying to myself, yeah, even if that's true, they seem happier than you.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I think honestly, that's why most of the time people will be like negative about something like this, is because there's some jealousy because they're unhappy. And that's fine. Like maybe you are one of those people. Maybe you're listening right now and you're like, yeah, that's a dumb idea. Like, why do that? I take an opportunity to investigate. Like, is there any jealousy feelings at all when you see people that are happy? Because if so, you can have it too. But it's a choice. Those people make choices.
I swear I'm going to make an entire episode on this because I think it's such a core part of our existence, is having an actual open mind and being honest in your evaluation of things. So when I honestly evaluated the people that I thought were just faking it, yeah, sometimes they're doing it in a way that I think is harmful and not really producing happiness. But for a lot of times, I saw that they were in general happier than me when they were just being positive, just by looking at the bright side.
Well, there's like research and actual studies on gratitude and what a positive attitude can do to change. I mean, it's so true. Like think about and Mel uses this as an example. Well, she actually has like a call to action of an idea to help you with some of this, but she talks about how music can change your state. Like think about like a song that has particular meaning for you, or that when you listen to it, you always feel happy. It engenders it. Like you,
That song that reminds you of that old boyfriend or girlfriend, like,
or that
People's
time
got
when you
those.
were on the trip with all your friends, and like it just takes you back there. Like our emotions really do affect how we feel. Like you can generate those things. Like if you've ever heard a song that changed your mood when you heard it, this is what we're talking about. And it like, if there is a way to feel happier about your life and your circumstances, why not? And I think that when you're talking about synchronicity here, it's looking for evidence. It's just training your mind to look for how life is showing up for you. And seeing that as like a nudge or a gift or a wink, like from God, that's saying, I'm here, I see you, you're important to me, and I got you. Like, we're okay. You'll be okay. I'm here. And I think when you're trained to look for it, it just becomes a lot easier to recognize and notice.
And that's really what it comes down to. I think we talked about this too, Heather. And again, a lot of these modalities come into play. So you can do a whole episode on framing. Framing is what this is also talking about. If we had framed our situation like you said, we used up all of our savings. We had
Hmm.
all this savings saved up, and now we had to use it all because I lost
Now
my
we're
job.
behind, and
Now
what are
we're
we gonna
behind.
do? Yeah.
We didn't get to do a lot of the things we wanted to do because we had to move across the United States either. We had a cute little 5 acre plot of land. We lost it.
Oh yeah, like yeah, that was another part. Like we had just bought a house. We hadn't even lived in the house a year before we moved. Finally, like after years of wanting to own our own home, we did. And you're right, 5 acres, rural, like outside of Richmond, beautiful little spot of land, and then it's gone, right?
Yep.
But like I think that's just it. And that's just part
It's
of
the framing.
this is part of what Mel talks about. Like her step three, like we'll get to step two, but like this kind of feeds beautifully into step three, is also recognizing um the greater, bigger picture and how life is showing up for you. So if we had this narrow view of like, look at all the things that didn't go right, we might say like, wow, we love this house. We wanted to be there forever. We thought it was going to be like at least a home for a while, and like it was snatched up from us, right? Then we would miss the entire like everything that we've built here in Utah that we love, and we know like we are here for certain reasons that are very clear to us, especially the tools that we gained once we moved here, like all of the mentoring that I had with mindset and stuff that helped when I found out about Cameron and things that he was going through, like I wouldn't have had that. Like we wouldn't be where we are right now. We wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now without those bad things happening. And so it's like this greater picture and looking, say like, hey, things aren't going my way right now. I wish they were going differently, but this must be showing up for me um, because I need it, because there's something bigger, there's something greater.
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like a lot of times we can take when we're especially when we're in a cynical mindset, and if you lean this way, you're not wrong. You kind of end up finding yourself not being wrong either way. So, for instance, the framing of what we just talked about, how we lost our house, we used up all our savings, we had to uproot our kids, and they had all their friends, and we were close. We were right next to some family, like just
Oh, literally like
they're
properties met.
yeah, they were just right next door. Um, we could have looked at it that way, so we weren't wrong in the cynical sense. And that's the problem. Your when you
There was
look,
still loss.
your reality is so hinges so much on how you decide to perceive it.
Yeah.
One thing that was going through my head as you were talking a second ago is we heard a cool post on Facebook about somebody who was talking about how their spouse told them how to choose their choice, and I think that's kind of what synchronicity is. It's looking at your life in a way to see your choices and the results and choosing them in a way that is positive. Just saying, I choose those results. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's and
owning the choice.
the hardest thing is when it comes out negative or in a way that you don't like. I think you still can in a positive view. You still can positively choose that choice and see where the truth of the learning and the growth is. That it's harder. It's much harder, but it's still there.
Well, it's just a matter. You've already made a choice because you're in the situation. So either you choose it or you become a victim. Like which way gives you more power? You can when you're when you're choosing your choice and you're owning it, then you actually have more ability to redirect and to make changes that help you get where you want to go and to course correct when you're off. But if you just like throw your hands up and be a victim about a choice that you made, like you're stuck. That's the definition of being stuck. You just
Yeah.
like remove any you remove any idea or concept that you can control things or influence things the way you want them to go, and you just become a victim.
Okay, so Heather, what was the second thing that Mel talked about?
So the second piece to this is that once you are looking around for the symbolism, right, the synchronicity, once you can identify how like life is showing up for you and like things are actually working for your good and the universe is aware of you, is to start declaring and stating what it is you want. And once you know what you want, and you state it and declare it, when it happens, you own it and you recognize it, you acknowledge it. Um, she also goes into the energy with which that you approach this, right? Uh, so
Vision boards.
so yeah, so one of the things one of the examples that I was thinking of, that happened to us is a few years back. It's probably been like over 5 years now. Uh, like we live in Utah. It's very cold in the winter. Our garage was a mess, so we couldn't park inside at the time.
He's
And
trying to explain a very stupid decision I made, but
no, but
thank
it
you.
was one that we both did.
Yeah,
It wasn't like so we Cameron turned on the car out front of the house. Was in our driveway. It's not like we lived in a very busy area. Like really in like kind of the more rural part of our town. And he went out to turn the car on to warm up and defrost the windows before work. And we've done that. How many years have we done this? It's just something we did, didn't
several
think
years.
anything of it because like it was a quiet, like no one, we knew our neighbors and didn't think anything of it. So I'm at the gym, um, and I was in the pool, and like I get out of the pool and I check my phone, and I've got missed calls galore from Cameron and text after text, and I start reading the text, and he's like, someone stole our car. Come home. I'm like, what? And so like, okay, police are here. Can you call me back? Like the text kept getting like more and more, and I'm like, what is happening? So I call him, and it turns out like he like walked inside for a minute. The best part was that day, I think you were on autopilot because I don't think the windows were really even needing to be defrosted that day. It was just warming up
I
the car.
think he was just warming up the car.
So he like goes in for like went out, turned on the car, went back in for just a minute, walks back out, and he sees the car driving out of our driveway. And
And just from my point of view, it's like when you see something that your brain doesn't understand how to comprehend. Like there was there wasn't a thought in my head that my car was being stolen. My thought was like,
it's like the Native Americans when they saw the Mayflower and they thought it was a cloud or something. There's like a
yeah,
reference like that.
it's like
I can't process this.
my brain couldn't process that my car was being stolen.
So he thought I was playing a prank.
I thought she was playing a prank on me at first, and it took me like about 30 seconds or so to realize, oh, my car was just stolen.
Yeah.
Uh,
And the best part is, like, literally the month before, we had just paid it off,
yeah,
and all of a sudden, like, the car it's just gone. Like, that's it. And so we decided that we were going to take this opportunity to make it as positive as possible, especially with our kids. And so, of course, we had all the concerns running through our mind, like, would we get it back? Would it be like found totaled? Like where, it's just like all of a sudden it's gone. You don't know what to do. And we knew like the, the real like risk was that it would be totaled. We'd get a payout that we bought the thing brand new and it was a great car. Like we wouldn't be able to find something as good. And so we had all those concerns, but we sat down with the kids and we talked with them and the kids were really like immediately, like we have some really tender-hearted, sweet kids. And we decided to pray for this person because we knew that like whoever took our car obviously wasn't in a good place. Whether they know it or not, like people who are happy and adjusted and healthy don't go stealing other people's cars. And so we began praying for the person who took it. And we prayed that they might feel inspired to bring it back. And we prayed that that they would get the help that they needed. And we legitimately did that. Like we just prayed for this person. And just went forward in faith, believing that it would all work out. God knew and it would work out. And so that was like on a Wednesday, I think.
yeah.
And that weekend was general conference for our church, and so we were watching that. And I remember my mom called, and we lived in a neighborhood that had some construction, in new neighborhoods being built just like west of us. And she's like, "Well, have you driven around? Maybe it was some kid just like messing around and they ditched it somewhere." And so, my brother had mentioned that some people, like he had friends that had found it like ditched in a church parking lot. And so we're like, well, it can't hurt. So we went out and like I legit,
I had the key fob I had left.
yeah, he brought that with us so we could
We could
test the car
test
because it's a
test.
white Honda Civic. So it's not like it was easily identifiable. It's like one in a million, right?
Right.
And so I went out like I don't even think I had a bra on, I'll just be real honest, like because I wasn't expecting anything to happen. But we were praying. And so we went out looking all the places that we thought to look.
This is late afternoon,
Yeah, it's like
almost sundown,
just like yeah,
dusk.
dusk. And so we drove through a church parking lot finally, and I'm like I don't like where should we go? And I think I had thrown out Walmart really fast, and I'm like, well, maybe we should go this way. And Cameron's like, well, what do you feel inspired to do? And I'm like, I don't know that I feel inspired to do anything. Like I do people really drive around and find their stolen car? Like, does this happen? And so he's like, well, just say a prayer. So I said a prayer. And immediately I had this feeling, like, I don't even know how to put words to it. It was more like, don't go. I was thinking of going left. Like, don't go left, turn right and go towards Walmart. I'm like, okay, let's just do it. So we drove over. And for anyone who's local to Utah, it was the Orem Walmart Supercenter.
And now remember, I have a generic Honda Civic. It's one in a million. And so I just want to tell this part of it because I remember I was talking to Heather as we were going in here, and I was just telling her, like, yeah, this is crazy. Like this car, I could see like 20 of them just by looking
Just
out
by
there.
looking down the aisle.
I said, even that one right there, and I hit the button on the fob, and the lights flash.
And I saw it at the same time.
And
We had just started driving through the parking lot. It was like we were in front of the store and we're like looking down the aisles, like as we're driving in front of the store. And I saw the lights flash. I'm like, did you see that?
Heather's,
do it again.
Your head snaps at me and you go, did you see that? And like I said, right, hit it again.
And sure enough, it goes off again. And so we drive around, and our car, the dealership we got it from, did like a pinstripes, like a decal on them.
You barely can see them.
And so it's a little bit different than it was an identifying feature. So we pull up in front of the car, and we honking it over and over again. And I'm like, that's pinstripes. It's not our license plate. I look in and there's like a backpack and a cell phone and like things that aren't ours, but that is our car. And so we pull in front of it. So like if he came out, like no one could leave with it. And we called the police and they showed up, and then they went in to talk to people about security cameras. And luckily, like it was right in front of the store, like it wasn't parked far from the entrance, and so they were able to get cameras and anything. Anyway, like the guy, we found out that like right when the police got there, he walked out, saw the police, and then he took off. But then they were able to find him a few days later. And then the detectives called, and they when they raided his apartment or his house or wherever, they called in later and said to come claim our keys because he kept them. I was like, for sure this guy is gonna.
I had some pretty serious master keys to my work. And they needed to be found, so it was good that they found them.
But when I went to go pick him up, like they had this bag and he like dumped it out, like with all of these keys. Turns out this is like a serial car thief, who, just that's what he did, and we found out who it was, and he ended up going to jail. And this was kind of like the tip of the iceberg, and I think he'd done a lot of harm. Like we found out that he had done a hit and run recently and left the stolen car. Anyway, our car was recovered with a lot of meth in the center console. Thankfully, it wasn't smoked in the car. And literally, like, I think the guy washed it. Like, it came back a little cleaner yeah. With, like, a bag of change that we ended. So we got a little bit richer off of it. And
that's, by the way, the cop gave us. They're just like, yeah, just take it.
And the only lasting effect was the cigarette smell. That, like, he had smoked a lot in the car. But then we went to, like, Wiggy Wash and got like a chlorine bomb thing, and it smelled like a swimming pool for about a week, and then you can't tell anymore. So just like
crazy. By the way, from the cameras they showed us that he was in there less than 5 minutes.
Oh yeah,
our window span that we found that car was 5-minute window.
And just like all the little things that went into place, my mom being inspired to mention it, we actually ended up like delaying it a little bit after conference that night because like for whatever reason. And I'm like, oh, it's too late. Maybe we shouldn't go because it was almost getting dark. But we did it anyway. Like all the little things that happened, even the mishaps where we planned to do it earlier and I thought I messed up, like all of those things led up to the opportunity for him to be there at that Walmart trying to make some random return, which probably even didn't belong to the guy, um, just
And a,
in time for us to find that
in a
car.
5 minute window. Like if we had gotten there a little bit earlier, he wouldn't have
Yeah.
been there, and
It
a little
wasn't
bit
like he
later, he would have
worked
been gone.
there or it was like a shopping spree. Like he literally walked in and came back out. So like, the fact that we were able to decide to see a bigger picture because we approached this whole thing with some faith. And I did that too. Like I'm thinking back to when you were let go in Virginia and we had that 5 month span. I remember just thinking like, God knows. Have you ever seen that like drawing where Christ is like trying to take a teddy bear from a little girl and she's like she doesn't want to give it up and behind his back he has this huge like much bigger like greater one. Have you seen that?
Yes.
I keep thinking of that. I think sometimes we hold so tight to what we think we want and what we can see as being ideal,
We're shutting ourselves
and we
down.
shut ourselves off to the bigger picture
Mm.
because now it was an inconvenience and we didn't like there was like I don't know that we benefited like
Monetarily.
monetarily from our car being stolen. We definitely didn't. But what we did benefit from was this like beautiful story that we refer to often. We talk about with our kids. It was such a faith promoting like experience. We can't deny that God was aware of us and God like he made that miracle happen. And I think back to that often when I'm feeling like stressed, especially over something that's really important. Now our car was important, but in the grand scheme of things, that would have sucked if we never found it, but we would have been okay. No one's life was in danger. There wasn't any real risk to anything terrible. It was a very big inconvenience, but life would have gone on. So when I have bigger life things that are coming up for me and I'm struggling and worrying about it, I often refer back to that. I'm like, if God cared about our car and he showed us how much he cared about us, then surely this is important to him too. This bigger thing that I'm worrying about,
Even the
this
smaller
this
things.
relationship, this child, this struggle right now is important to him too, if that was important to him. And so what we got in that situation was something much greater and worth the inconvenience of our car being stolen for like 3 days. So it was just a really amazing experience and one I'll forever be grateful for and I talk about all the time. Um, and while I don't think we did it perfectly, but I do think we followed like this principle, the second principle that Mel talks about in her podcast. And we'll link to the podcast so you guys can listen to it too, because it's well worth it. Um, but she talks, it's about declaring what you want, saying what you want. And so we were doing that through our prayers. Um, I think we could do better. I think we could have done better with it. However, God still like heard, and I really do think it's about knowing what you want and being clear. And I think too, the way we approached it with it wasn't a demand. It was a hope. It was a prayer. It was an acceptance
That's a
of
good way to
of
look at it
his
too.
of his will. But like I did go into it expecting that he would help us overcome it no matter what that looked like. And so I could expect the help, but it wasn't a demand for it to go the way that I wanted it to, but it was still an ask. We asked, like I remember just saying like I don't care who did it, but can you break their heart so like maybe we wake up one morning and they just returned it. And I had all these ideas of how it could be made right. I never once thought, oh, well, maybe we'll ride through Walmart and see it one
That's a
day.
great way to look at it because I think when you keep yourself open to the fact that it's not that you're making your future, you're influencing and enticing a future. And when you realize that's what you're doing, then you can allow however it shows up.
Yeah.
And when you do it, when you influence and entice it very powerfully, it shows up very close to what you wanted, or sometimes exactly. But it doesn't mean it has to. You can accept it the way it actually shows up.
And Mel talks about like the energy, and we referenced this before, that you show up to these things with. Now, if we had the poor attitude and the complaining, and that like I might have like when my mom suggested that, I might have just been really irritated and been like, yeah, right, no one ever finds their car. But because we had approached it, I think this is where the power of believing in these things and hoping instead of being so negative is that when she suggested it, because I'd been praying, I'm like, well, it can't hurt.
And so we showed up in an attitude of hope. We showed up in an attitude of faith. And I think when we put ourselves out there in the right energy and expect help, that we see it, and we also open up the opportunities to do it, because I might have been completely shut off to doing that at all, and I would have like, and you know what, that could have happened if I had approached it any other way. That opportunity might have been lost. And so think about that for a second. Like, how many times, because we're closed off to a way that it could happen, because we just don't believe it's possible, that we don't even go there, and then we lose the opportunity. That night we legitimately could have just lost the opportunity, and then
Yeah.
what? Like, maybe God would have given us a second chance.
We wouldn't have known. We would have just seen it as
And
the
you
same
wouldn't have
thing as
known.
well.
Like, yeah, in our car. Like, so I have to wonder, how many times did I have in my life have I prevented
Yeah.
the outcome that I wanted, because I didn't open myself up to the opportunity that was there.
Okay, so now we would like to talk about being intentional and deliberate with how you look for that synchronicity, how you uh, can find those things in your life that are happening for you. And doing that is what all of us have heard before, and doing that is setting your goals and setting intentions. And we want to talk about the power of that and how it's worked in our life and how it can work in yours.
So, I think like most people are really familiar with New Year's resolutions, right? But
Right.
the running joke is that, you start out January, and by the end of January, February, something like that, like most people have given up already. And so one thing that we have found that has helped us with these goals is, I think what happens is like, we expect like motivation to stick around to achieve them, because we feel like really excited, like, okay, this is the year, I'm going to do this. And we feel like pumped up and ready to go to do something new and to get something bigger results than we've had before. And then when motivation just like doesn't come easily or naturally or on its own, we stop, and we give up and we forget. And so one of the things that we have done that's really helped us with some of these big goals, especially ones that we share together, is a vision board. And we do it a little bit different than a lot of people do. Our vision board is like a
Screensaver.
screensaver that, so we have a TV in our room, and it's a screensaver that rolls through all the images of the things that we are creating.
We have Apple TVs on several TVs in the home, and I told the Apple TV to scroll through as a screensaver when it goes into timing out mode, into a particular Apple Photos folder that I have.
Yeah.
That's just for vision board stuff. And so, yeah, it keeps scrolling through these things, and I cycle things in and out all the time.
So it didn't start that way. In fact, it was a little bit more boring than that. I had a cork board that I was like, I just put like sticky notes that I like pinned on there with the things we were working on, or that I personally wanted to achieve. So, for example, we had some debt that we were trying to pay off and get completely clear and behind us. So I put the total amount that I wanted to um, collect, to earn, to save, and to pay off. We had put our house on there. What else did we have on there? We had a trip to Disney.
Mm-hmm.
We had, this was years ago though, so it's not fresh in my mind.
We had goals to go to the temple.
Yeah,
some spiritual stuff on there.
Goals on there. Anyway, just things like that. And what we've noticed, because I was paying like really close attention to it, and every time we achieved one, like I would keep the stack. I have the stack of stickies somewhere. I need to find that because it was so cool. Of all the things that we had achieved and like we had marked off on our goal. And some things stayed up there because they were like weekly goals, right? But we started realizing like, wow, like we actually are getting those things. Like everything on our board happened. Now, our trip to Disney actually was one of the lingering things. And now that we're talking about it, I'm actually just thinking about this. Like that was one of the things that didn't happen when we switched over to the screensaver one, but we had it put up on, we put that up on our screensaver, and we actually did that with everybody 2022. Yeah. So we did that. It's almost been 2 years now, and we took everyone to Disneyland. So it's just
like it was amazing to us that we were actually like seeing these results, and it was, I don't think it was anything like magical to do with having it on the board. It was because we were constantly reminded of what we were working for. It was constantly put in our mind so that we could look for ways to accomplish it. Our brain really wants to work for us, and if it knows what to do, then it can start looking for evidence. And the thing is, if we leave it to like happenstance, or we're not intentionally doing that, we will look for all the evidence that we're like not necessarily things that we want. And that's a lot of the what I deal with, particularly when I coach clients, is those unconscious beliefs that where our brains are like, oh, collect here, oh, there's evidence here, and we don't know we're doing it, and we're just having all these results in our life that we don't want. But our brain is like trained, we told it unconsciously to search for those things. And so by intentionally putting things for our brain to like say, oh, this is what you want, okay, I can find things for that, because we're constantly like looking for clues everywhere we go, to create sense of the world that we've decided we believe in, the lens that we want to look through. So if you can choose the lens, you can choose what to look for, you will be able to create more of that in your life. Now, it's not like a foolproof. We still have, I think, like dollar amounts of income that we haven't reached yet, that are still on our vision board.
It surprised me a lot of the small things too. So for instance, I a while back saw, we've been trying to get in shape and we've been wanting to do more working out. And Heather did this cool thing where she calculated all the time it took to drive to.
Well, I was in a work training.
Yeah.
And we were talking about like time arbitrage,
Yeah.
and how to stack time. And I, I was thinking about how long it took to get to the gym, how much my gym membership was. The fact that Cameron, like, because we switched, like we moved, we didn't have access to the rec center gym that we used to, where it was like a monthly low cost fee for everybody to do whatever. And now I was paying individual. So I'm like calculating this plus the time it would take driving there and back. And I think it was like 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. And I started doing the math and the expense and how much our time was worth. And I realized, like, if we had a gym in our basement and the access to it was literally walking down the stairs, that we would, how many days was it, like 5.5 days a year?
It was at least several 24-hour days of the year that
I think
we
it
were
was like
just
5.
I can't remember, yeah, but it was
That we would get back. Like that time we would get that time back. And then I was like, and we had this tonal machine. It's a digital weight, like
smart gym kind of thing.
Cameron had found that a while ago, and we had that on our vision board, and we're like, I think it was like a $5,000 machine, and we're like, oh,
Didn't make
like
sense,
that,
yeah.
that's a big expense. Like, I don't know that we should do that right now. And then as I calculated our time and how much we would be spending on the gym plus our time, and then we did a little bit more research into the tonal, like, well, they had a 0% financing option where you wouldn't pay any interest and you can do it slowly over so many, months. And it ended up being, like not very much more than what we would spend to go to the gym. Plus we had all that time back. And like, it's hard. I mean, I think a lot of people like, yeah, I got a gym in my house or my basement. I don't use it, or people don't use it. It's like, well, you still have to choose. You still have to have the commitment
Right.
to go into it. It's just because you put it there doesn't mean you're going to use it. But for us, we were already committed. And we have, like, this almost been a whole year since we've had it installed.
Mm-hmm.
Next month it'll be a year. So it's been a beautiful, like, give back of time for us. And we're getting stronger because, like, we don't have to. So the gym that we have in our community is so overpacked. Like, just to get on the machine you want takes forever. And it's just the two of us. We can play the music we want. It's easy. So that's,
and the way the tonal worked, our one account covers everyone in the home.
yeah. So
our kids are now using it.
It's helping our kids have a healthier lifestyle and build a foundation of strength instead of just like, dieting. Like, I don't know, we got a lot of messed up ideas. That's a whole other topic about what bodies should be and how it should be. But we have a tool to help our kids build a foundation of healthy, muscle and all of that. So
So
And
something,
on top of that, like not just the tonal, but also because we love to yard sell. I think we mentioned that earlier. We love like thrift shopping and stuff. Like we actually got like a really nice exercise bike. It's up like a Peloton without the subscription. We got that for a couple
doesn't have the
$100.
screen on it, but it has a place to hold your,
Yeah, and
it's the same build.
we had a treadmill at the thrift store and a rowing machine off of like Facebook Marketplace. And so we've really built out our gym for like not a whole lot of extra money than you would spend just every month for a membership. And it's been amazing. And the reason why that happened when it did, because that tonal was something we wanted. We knew we were working for it. We knew that would be really nice to have. And when it made sense, when my brain was like, oh, I'm putting together these pieces of the puzzle and say, this actually makes sense. Like we knew that it was the right thing to go ahead and do it, and it happened. But without that, if we had just said, oh, that looks cool, we'll never have that, I don't know that I would have pieced it together. I don't know that I would have been looking for those clues during that. I might have just felt like more frustrated, like, look at how much time I'm spending just driving to the gym every day, you know?
Yeah.
Instead of saying, oh, wait a minute, I have a solution because I already know what I want.
Well, and here's something interesting. This is a situation where the thing we put on a vision board was the exact thing we got.
Yeah.
But what I found very important to do is when you make these goals, have them firm in your head on what you want, but be loose on what you get. Because I think it's really important to allow the world to show up for you the way it does and to grab the opportunity the way it is. So for instance, the car we're driving in right now is a newer car that we got. And
we got a van back when we had like
2009.
our second daughter was a baby, like not even one. And it's been a really reliable, trustworthy car, but it was getting to the age of where it's like, okay, we're going to have to put a lot more money into it because it needs some maintenance and things like that. And we had on our vision board, like I knew I was kind of like, I loved a minivan. I was so excited for a minivan, but I was like, I kind of want something a little bit more fun and sporty.
We put on the vision board a Rivian R1S, which if you know what that is a very expensive.
Like $100,000 car.
Oh, closer to like 120 to 150. Yeah, it's a very expensive sport utility. Yeah. But so what the interesting thing happened was that's been on our board for a while. And I remember we were going in for a checkup before a pretty large trip. We needed to get our van kind of checked out to make sure it was okay, doing oil change stuff on it. And I remember as we pulled up thinking to myself, oh, we're getting a new vehicle. It was funny, like
you shared that with me, and I'm like, no, we're not. What are you talking about? We just came in for an oil change.
3.5, 4 hours later, we came out with a new vehicle, and it was a vehicle we wanted. We love this vehicle right now, and it was the perfect
right
vehicle.
Timing. It's been a comfortable, safer, more reliable. We have a lot of traveling that we've been doing and will be doing, and so
the van just wasn't doing that anymore. It wasn't as reliable for these long trips.
And it's a Honda Pilot. It is not a Rivian.
Nope.
But it kind of fit, like, it was interesting for me to see. I'm like, well, it kind of fits that vibe. Now, granted, there's an upgrade still, and we bought this knowing, like, hey, we're probably not going to keep it as long as our last car. This is an interim car as we work towards what we want. But it was like, it had the vibe and the energy and the everything that I was hoping for. The Rivian just happened to be like the perfect expression of that.
Well, and here's the interesting thing, though. What I think is important is because, again, looking back to synchronicity, I still believe by looking at that as a fulfillment of something that we were trying to do already, it creates an increased well-being and a feeling of empowerment in me that I still understand that the vision board is still working. Even if the Rivian is still on there. Someday, and maybe it'll never happen exactly the way it is. I have other stuff on there too, but they may not happen perfectly like that. But I think by looking at things in a way where I still see the synchronicity in the fact that we were looking for this vehicle, but this one showed up, that it's still a fulfillment of what we were looking for. And I think that's really important because I think a lot of times things will show up in ways you did not expect and might even in the beginning seem a little negative. But I think if you really look carefully, if you've been focusing on a certain type of result, the essence of what you wanted did come through in what you got. So I think that's just really important to see that.
And it doesn't mean it's over. It's kind of like I think we still have Disney World. on our
Yes.
board, right? So we
Yes.
did Disneyland. We're a lot closer to Disneyland, a lot easier to do that, but it's still there. We haven't taken it down. So, and I think the thing is that if you know what you want and you can define it, it's not, I don't want this. It's what do you want? A lot of times when people ask you or ask somebody, what do you want? It comes out in the negative. Like, well, I don't want any more debt, and I don't want to be fat anymore, and I don't want this, and I don't want that. We're really good at knowing what we don't want. We're not so good about understanding what it is exactly that we
I
want.
think it's also difficult for a lot of people to give themselves permission to want, to look for things that um, they might even not even be what you need. They might be just something that I just desire this. I just want this. You have a table you're looking at. We should put that on the vision board.
Oh yeah, me too.
Uh, uh, it's just like it's just a new kitchen table. Do we have to? No, our kitchen table's fine, but we would like to.
Yeah.
It'd be nice. And I do think having that in your head as like I said, I think having the want firm but the result loose is really important because it allows life to show up for you in the most beautiful and perfect way.
Because you can only know what you know, and sometimes like God understands better what he can give you. And if you allow the outcome to be what it should, and you just work towards what you think you understand, you want, and let go of the outcome in that, not that you stop working for it, but let go of what it has to look like when it shows up. There's just a lot of you open yourself up to worlds more success. I mean, gosh, like I think of that just in my personal work and what I thought, I wanted and what ended up happening based on some really difficult things. Like it's just kind of interesting. You just let go of what it needs to look like and trust, and try and remain positive and happy. And I think, just tying this back into what Mel Robbins was talking about, the 3 steps of is to be looking around for the synchronicity, the meaning, when you know what you want, and then finding, like, I think that's, like starting with the vision board, you can look around for what it is that you want all the time. And then when you see little things so for example, in that work meeting, when I was calculating the time going to the gym, I could see that, like, I could tie that into like, oh, hey, this is meaningful. Like this, I was supposed to hear this today because this just helped me understand this is actually the right thing to go ahead and do. And it gave me permission. And I wasn't like, I could look at it through the lens of life is showing up for me. God knows what I want, and he's finding a way to help me see how to get it. And then declaring it and knowing exactly what it is you want, asking for it, and then changing your energy to match what it would feel like to get that result. Because if you approach life negatively, like think about it, if you're going in for a job interview and you're like, you say, I really need this job. I really want this job, but I'm probably not going to get it. Oh, they get there and look at all the people that are in line to interview for this job, or you just all the negative self-talk. If you continue to move forward in that direction and you sit there in front of the interviewer, how do you think you're going to show up and present yourself? But if you say, you know what, I'm perfect for this job. I have done this, look at all the qualifications I have. I really am amazing. I'm an amazing candidate. I am so going to get this job. And if I don't get this one, there's just something better for me. If you approach it with that energy, think of how you will present yourself to the rest of the world. And so that's what she's talking about is it's not faking it. It's literally like manifesting it before it happens. And giving yourself the kind of pep talk that helps you show up differently and helps you create the influence in the world to receive the results you want, instead of just sitting back and being a victim to whatever happens or other people's choices or how they might feel about you. You can change how people feel about you by how you show up. And then I think like the final piece is know that there's a greater purpose. There's just more out there that, like, when things don't happen, like, so we could have, when we got this car, we could have been like, oh, we shouldn't buy this because, like,
we're waiting for the Rivian.
We're waiting for the Rivian. Like, and then our other car breaks down or costs a bunch of money to fix, and we're in a worse jam than we were before because we're like, no, it's not what it's supposed to be. It's like looking for the bigger, greater, broader purpose. Mel Robbins talks about like a really cool, and I'm not gonna spoil it. I'm gonna direct you to her podcast. Like we don't get anything for it, but she's awesome. So if I can help inspire anyone further, like she's worth the listen. But she talks about a book release and how it went dreadfully wrong, but how the dreadfully wrong thing that went so bad actually ended up being the best thing that propelled her forward to where she is now. And like how really just life showed up for her in a powerful way when it looked like it was falling apart. And so when you have that ability to look and say, like, you know what, like I don't understand what's going on right now when things aren't going your way, but I know it's all going to be okay, then you open up yourself for some really miraculous cool things. All right, well, that's about it for today. But we want to leave you with a challenge. Number one, go watch the Mel Robbins podcast. She's awesome. Like I said, we don't get anything for this, but if it can inspire you as it's inspired us, then it's a win. Second, try it out. Pick one thing today that you really want, something that you would really love to happen. It can be something as small as like, I wish I wish I could be recognized for something I've done at work, right? Something, it could be Mel Robbins on her podcast talks about a line opening up at the grocery store. It doesn't have to be anything huge. Say like, I want this, and then start acting as if it's already happened. Like put that energy into it as if you already have that result, and then start looking for all of the evidence that there is, and recognize, like look for it, expect it, have faith. That's what faith is. It's not like it's expecting that things will work for your ultimate good. And so start looking and collecting that evidence and watch for what it means in the bigger picture of everything and see what happens. And we'd love to hear any of your stories. So if something cool happens, please put it in the comments. Let us know about it. Maybe also tell Mel. She's awesome. All right, that's it for today. Thank you everyone for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share. Our goal is to help you create radical intimacy in your life and have an epic relationship with the one that you want to most. So we hope you have a great day, everyone, and we will catch you next time. Bye.